After 8 years of deep mountain cultivation, Xiao Yi returned to the secular world and indulged in the flowers to avenge her blood, and seaOpportunity has arrived, blood has awakened, cheating has been activated, relying on a super strong background, standing proudly in the world. Invincible cultivation breaks through the 3 realms, and the art of defying the heavens controls life and death. I, Xiao Yi, want to revive the court and directly attack the dragon court. Invincible Shuangwen, divine doctor, cultivates immortals, decisive in killing and attacking. Chapter 1. People are better than animals. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Xiao Yi, I feel a little pain. Xiaojie, it will be ready soon. Ah. As the mucus spurted out, the treatment finally came to an end. Xiao Yi smiled and said, okay, if you feed Xiao Bao again in the future, it won't hurt anymore. Xiao Yi raised his hand and wiped the juice off his face. He was just helping Xiaojie clear the clumps. Xiao Yi, you're really amazing. You can cure anything from livestock to humans. Although Xiaojie is open, she doesn't feel shy. In her eyes, Xiao Yi is still a child. Xiao Yi looked down and was about to climb down when the old man's voice came from outside the door. Xiao Yi, you should go now. The old man pushed the door open and walked in, accompanied by a beautiful and charming girl with a graceful figure. Xiao Yi pulled up the clothes beside her and covered Xiaojie's body, saying, Old man, I'm treating Xiaojie. Ah. Before the old man could speak, the girl next to him saw this scene and turned her head away in disgust. These 2 people are really jerks, doing this in broad daylight. Let's go out and talk. Xiao Yi arrived outside, and the old man and the young girl followed suit. What did you say earlier? Xiao Yi looked at the old man and asked. The old man said, it's been 8 years. After you finish your studies, you can go down the mountain. It happens that after my old friend, if you have something to ask for, please help me. Are you joking? I only broke through the master. If I encounter a strong person, wouldn't it be because my life has been explained? Why don't you give me a few more life-saving treasures? Get out of here, are you still short of what I have given you? I tell you, with your current cultivation level, unless you encounter a powerful Xianmen, the ancient martial arts world is no longer your opponent. Besides, the old man pulled Xiao Yi aside and whispered, in the trigger of your hand, there is a divine sense left by your ancestor. When he wakes up, you will have a shocking creation. Xiao Yi looked at the black trigger in her hand and said, I nourish him with blood every day, but I haven't seen him wake up. I guess your ancestor has already hiccuped. Bold. Don't you want to avenge your parents by raising them? Xiao Yi's expression darkened. 8 years ago, his family suffered a tragic disaster, with no surviving foster parents and his sister's whereabouts unknown. It was the old man who brought him here. The old man was named a veterinarian, but in fact, he was a reclusive expert. He not only had a high level of cultivation, but also had the skill of using the anti-heavenly medicine pill, possessing the ability to bring death back to life. Xiao Yi has amazing talent and has been studying and practicing hard for 8 years, with the goal of one day avenging her foster parents. The old man pointed to the girl not far away and said, her name is Su Jioga, the granddaughter of Mr. Su in Lincheng. She has a good figure, right? You go help her, maybe she'll marry you as soon as she's happy. Didn't you say that I had a baby engagement with the Yi family? You're not the young master of the Xiao family anymore. Do you expect the Yi family to marry your daughter to you? Stop talking nonsense and follow Su Jioga. I haven't forgotten revenge, it's just that my strength is average now and I want to wait for my level to improve a bit. Mortal experience is an essential step in cultivation. Here you are, now. You are the young master of the divine I sect. The old man couldn't help but give Xiao Yi a mobile phone and a bank card. Xiao Yi also knew that the old man was right, hiding in the wilderness and hiding in the court. He should also go out of the mountains. The contacts on your phone can take action when you are in danger, but I hope you try to rely on yourself. The old man called Su Jioga over again and said, "Girl, I have already calculated that your Su family will encounter great difficulties. Xiao Yi can save your Su family from danger. Take him with you." Su Jioga looked at Xiao Yi with confusion, thinking of the scene he had just seen with Sister Xiao. He frowned and said, "Grandpa Tang, could you please come down the mountain yourself? I'll see him." She doesn't believe in Xiao Yi's abilities and despises his character even more. Behind Su Jioga, her bodyguard couldn't bear to listen anymore and said rudely, "Old man, my young lady came so far to invite you. You sent a kid who hasn't even grown hair, which is too disrespectful to my Su family." Boom! The old man slapped the air in front of him, causing the void to twist. Ah! The bodyguard didn't react and flew out, landing heavily on the ground. The old man snorted coldly, "You can look down on me, but you can't look down on my disciple. For the sake of the Su family's old man, spare your life, otherwise I'll cut your tongue." The bodyguard looked at the old man in fear, too scared to speak. Strike through the air, the weakest is also a martial arts master. Su Jioga was also startled. I never expected this dirty old man in front of me to act so harshly. Grandpa Tang, Su-san is my bodyguard. I apologize for my poor discipline. Su-san also got up and apologized to the old man. The old man ignored them and whispered to Xiao Yi, "The inheritance within this ring will be unblocked as you break through your cultivation. You must take good care of it." The old man rarely got serious, so Xiao Yi didn't talk back to him. He followed Su Jioga on a Mercedes-Benz and left Mingquan Mountain. Su Jioga secretly looked at Xiao Yi and asked, "Xiao Yi, are you a veterinarian?" "Yes." Xiao Yi knew she looked down on her and didn't want to say much. "My young lady is asking you a question, please give me a good answer." Su-san was dissatisfied, and he poured all his resentment towards the old man onto Xiao Yi's head. "Is it none of your business? Kid, do you know who you're talking to? Is it your pride to have a dog wielding power over others? Do you think that with the support of the Su family, no one dares to deal with you? You. Su-san, he's my guest now." Su-san was about to get angry when he was stopped by Su Jioga. Today's Su-san has a lot to say. Su-san quickly accompanied a smile, but gave Xiao Yi a fierce glare. Su Jioga looked at Xiao Yi and smiled, "Grandpa Tang actually said that our Su family is facing a great crisis. Can you save us?" Hee. Xiao Yi remained silent. "I'm asking you a question." Su Jioga was unhappy. The Su family was a prominent family in Lincheng, and she was so beautiful and sexy. Men wanted to kneel and lick her when they saw her, but Xiao Yi ignored her. "Since you don't believe the old man's words, what else should I say?" Su Jioga snorted coldly and asked again, "Did you just treat that young woman? I've heard that rural women are casual." Xiao Yi doesn't like to explain, but he doesn't allow others to slander Xiao Jie. He has been in Mingquan Mountain for many years, and Sister Xiao has taken good care of him. "I'm clearing her milk knot, and you'll understand when you give birth." Su-san laughed heartily and said, "Are you only clearing milk knots? As a veterinarian who treats animals, you can also treat people. There's no difference between humans and animals. Some people are not as good as animals. You dare to scold me, I've been enduring you for a long time." As soon as Su-san raised his hand, the car suddenly braked suddenly and a violent collision occurred. Bang! As the car shook, Su Jioga Miaoman's body flew up and was embraced by Xiao Yi. "Well, it's so soft." Chapter 2. Evil Men Report First. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ah! Su Jioga lowered her head and saw that Xiao Yi's sinful hand had fiercely pressed against her Mount Fuji. "I didn't mean to." Xiao Yi withdrew her hand, but there was no apology on her face. Do you dare to touch? Su Jioge is so big, those two highlands have never been captured before. Xiao Yi, how dare you underestimate my young lady? Su San clenched his fist and was about to smash at Xiao Yi. You're in trouble. Xiao Yi calmly pointed ahead. Su Jioge's Mercedes collided with an off-road vehicle, and a group of people fiercely blocked the road. Miss, I'll go meet them. Su San was about to get off the car when he threatened Xiao Yi, if you dare to bully my young lady, I'll smash your head. Fool, I see you're in danger. Xiao Yi was not afraid at all and looked out of the car curiously. Su Jioge sarcastically said, Grandpa Tang is so skilled, I believe he also passed on your excellent martial arts skills, right? I usually don't take action, but if I do, I will hurt someone. Humph, just your small physique, I see you can't even catch a chicken, unless you show me your hand. Xiao Yi was too lazy to pay attention to her. He went down the mountain this time for revenge and cultivation, and had no interest in provoking these common things. Ah! Outside the car, after only 2 rounds, Su San was overturned and lay on the ground, howling in agony. Not quite right. Xiao Yi frowned. Su Jioge asked, what's wrong? Xiao Yi remained silent and opened the car door to get out. Upon seeing this, Su Jioge followed suit. There are over a dozen people across from each other, led by a bald man with a fierce expression on his face. Oh, what a beautiful little girl. The bald man saw Su Jioge and his eyes lit up with lust. If you dare to harm my young lady's hair, I won't let you go even if I'm a ghost. Su San got up from the ground and put on a loyal attitude of protecting the Lord. Xiao Yi stood on the side, watching coldly. Baldy said, I'll tell you all, I'm Yuan Kai from the Blood Wolf sect. Blood Wolf Gate. Su Jioge's face changed as the power of the Blood Wolf sect spread throughout Beizhou and had a significant influence in Linqing. The Blood Wolf sect has always been like the Su family's well, water does not cross the river. You should be aware of the status of our Su family in Linqing. Yuan Kai hesitated for a moment and smiled, Miss Su, it's not easy for the brothers to come out once. Please go and sit down, and I will notify the Su family to pick them up. Want to kidnap? Su Jioge secretly blamed himself for not bringing more bodyguards. The other party was crowded, but there were only 3 of them. Su San was injured, Xiao Yi. His small physique can be completely ignored. You run quickly. Su Jioge looked at Xiao Yi and made a decision. Xiao Yi felt a warmth in her heart. He didn't expect that this arrogant young lady was quite loyal. Su Jioge looked at Yuan Kai, raised a finger, and said, I'll give you this number, let's go. 10 million, how about you send beggars? 1 billion. It's Miss Su from the Su family who has courage, but I want to keep this kid. Yuan Kai raised his hand and pointed at Xiao Yi. I can come with you, I hope you don't regret it. Xiao Yi is about to pass by. Get out of here, it's not your turn to show off. Su San clenched his fists and charged forward again. Xiao Yi's expression was stunned. What kind of game is this kid playing? 4 subordinates jumped out from behind Yuan Kai and surrounded Su San. After Su San let out a scream, he fell to the ground and stood still. I'll count 3, kneel down and apologize, otherwise don't blame me for being impolite. Xiao Yi pushed aside Su Jioge and walked towards Yuan Kai. Haha. Yuan Kai and his subordinates burst out laughing, as if looking at idiots. Brothers, let him see the strength of our Blood Wolf sect. A burly man rushed out from behind Yuan Kai, 1 head taller than Xiao Yi. Watch me smash your head. He leaned forward and punched Xiao Yi. Xiao Yi lifted her right leg and kicked it between his legs. Ah! A mournful cry echoed through the wilderness. The burly man lay on the ground with his pants in his hands, juice flowing all over the ground. Egg Shred Xiao Yi smiled and said, if you want to blow up my head, then I'll blow up your egg, it's even. Well done. Su Jioge is very excited. Although Xiao Yi's foot is unethical, it's a way to relieve hatred. Let's go together and kill him. Yuan Kai's subordinates all rushed towards Xiao Yi. A little yellow hair rushed forward first, and he followed suit by flying his legs and kicking towards Xiao Yi's legs. But in Xiao Yi's opinion, his speed was too slow. Not only did he not dodge, but he took the initiative to approach him and inserted his 2 fingers into the other person's eyes. Ah! Little yellow hair sprayed blood in both eyes and fell off the cliff with one head. You are his mother overcast. Yuan Kai is very frustrated, this is their usual move. To deal with Yin people, you need to use Yin moves. Xiao Yi doesn't want to explode her cultivation in front of Su Jioge, otherwise it will scare her. He cleverly utilized his body shape and speed to maneuver between opponents. Screaming incessantly, Yuan Kai's subordinates flew out one after another, all seriously injured. At this moment, several more cars arrived and a young man jumped out of a nanny's car. Jioge, I'm here to save you. With a command from the young man, all his subordinates rushed forward. As the battle drew to a close, Xiao Yi kicked Yuan Kai away with one kick. The young man first protected Su Jioge and turned to point at Xiao Yi, saying, "Kill him." Su Jioge pushed away the man and shouted anxiously, "Yi Guan, he saved me. Don't mess around." Yi Guan frowned and said, "Jioge, who is he?" "He's a friend I invited." Yi Guan sneered and said, "Jioge, don't you even think about it. Why did you encounter him and have an accident?" This. Su Jioge was taken aback for a moment. She hadn't thought so before. Upon hearing what Yi Guan said, it seemed like there was some truth to it. "I see you're a villain, report it first." Xiao Yi was about to walk over when she was stopped by Yi Guan's people. The boy wanted to show off and said, "If you dare to take another step forward, I'll break your dog leg." Bang! As soon as he finished speaking, he knelt straight in front of Xiao Yi. Ah! His screams were chilling. The crowd was startled and looked at Xiao Yi with fearful eyes. No one knew how he made the move. Xiao Yi kicked up again, and the boy's body flew up, coincidentally landing in front of Yi Guan. "Keep an eye on your dog, otherwise I'll make you kneel here forever." Yi Guan knows he kicked onto the iron plate, maybe something bad will happen. His mind was fast and he immediately said, "Jioge, this person has made extraordinary moves. He must have deliberately used the strategy of hard work to gain your trust." Yi Xiao is right. Su San suddenly came to life. His injury seemed serious, but in reality it was just a skin injury. "Miss, is there such a coincidence in the world?" Perhaps he called the people of the Blood Wolf sect. Su Jioge didn't speak, and she was also a bit indecisive. Xiao Yi asked in response, "If I did it, what would I draw?" Chapter 3. See you in the next life. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Su San sneered and said, "You want my young lady to be beautiful, too. Su's family has strong financial resources." Yi Guanhua poured oil on the fire and said, "Jioge, why don't you have a bodyguard who can see it clearly?" Su Jioge was about to speak when he was stopped by Yi Guan again. Yi Guan pointed at Yuan Kai and ordered, "Bring this kid over to me." His subordinates immediately brought Yuan Kai to the front. "Tell me the truth, spare your life." Yi Guan looked into Yuan Kai's eyes and said, "Did he command it?" Yuan Kai nodded and said, "That's right. He asked me to lead someone to ambush here and cooperate with him to save the beauty hero, in order to gain Miss Su's trust. Do you dare to argue with people's evidence and physical evidence?" Yi Guan had a proud expression on his face. When it comes to intelligence, no one can surpass the Yi family. "Xiao Yi, how do you explain it?" Su Jioge pointed at Yuan Kai and asked. "I don't want to explain." Xiao Yi was very depressed. She was wronged as soon as she went down the mountain. Su Jioge said, Just now, Grandpa Tang said that even if he had left our Su family, there would have been great difficulties. Can you save the Su family? Xiao Yi was dumbfounded when she heard this. This old veterinarian, what kind of pressure is he pretending to have nothing to do? It all corresponds to this. Su Jioga thought he was right and said, Grandpa Tang knew my purpose when I first arrived. If you set up eyeliner in Su's house in advance, you would have time to plan all this. Xiao Yi sneered, so, do you believe I did it? Su Jioga said, you come back with me for an investigation first. If it proves that you are innocent, Su Jioga apologizes to you. Yi Guan agreed and said, if you resist, it just means you have a ghost in your heart. His words sealed off Xiao Yi's retreat. Okay. Xiao Yi also didn't want to leave behind with a bad name behind his back. He wanted to give this young lady from a prestigious family a good lesson. Before getting on the car, Xiao Yi didn't forget to remind her, Su Jioga, be careful with this person surnamed Yi. The heart of a villain. Yi Guan looked coldly at Xiao Yi, wishing he could take his life now. Yi Guan got into the nanny car with Su Jioga, and Xiao Yi sat in the off-road vehicle behind him. Su San and Yi Guan's bodyguards sandwiched Xiao Yi in the middle. Xiao Yi looked at the nanny car driving faster and faster ahead, and had already distanced herself from them. The off-road vehicle turned into a fork in the road and stopped at the edge of a cliff. Su San put down his phone and was about to get up when Xiao Yi smiled and asked, how much did Yi Guan give you? Su San's face turned pale, and his gaze was somewhat flustered. Ha! Xiao Yi burst out laughing. Su San became angry with embarrassment and shouted, take action. Yi Guan's bodyguard was well prepared and stabbed Xiao Yi's chest with a dagger in his hand. Kid, I'll see you in the next life. Bang! His dagger seemed to pierce the steel plate, and Xiao Yi remained motionless. Just as he was about to raise the dagger again, Xiao Yi lightning struck and fiercely slashed his neck. Click! As the bone broke, his head tilted and he died in an instant. You're right, I'll see you in the next life. Xiao Yi kicked him off the cliff with one kick. Xiao Yi, I'll kill you. Although Su San was afraid, he still clenched his fists and rushed over. Fool! Xiao Yi was flying fast and punched him directly in the chest. Ah! Su San's sternum cracked open, blood spurted from his mouth, and he passed out. Xiao Yi didn't kill him, he still needs to testify. It's not my business. The driver was too scared to move when he saw his companion dead and injured. After Xiao Yi knocked him unconscious, she also kicked him off the car. Xiao Yi didn't leave immediately. After picking up Su San's phone and unlocking it in his face, she glanced at the message and had a clear idea. He put away his phone and drove straight ahead to chase after him. In the nanny's car, Su Jioga remained cold and aloof. She didn't want to believe that Grandpa Tang and Xiao Yi were trying to harm her. Yi Guan comforted and said, Jioga, it will take 2 hours to return to Linqing. You can drink some red wine and take a nap. Su Jioga instinctively took the red wine and suddenly thought of Xiao Yi's reminder, saying, I have a headache, I won't drink it anymore. A fierce expression flashed in Yi Guan's eyes and he said, then you can rest. I won't speak anymore. Su Jioga took a deep breath, the scent of the sachet inside the car was so strong. She may have been tired and gradually felt her consciousness becoming chaotic. Her body began to heat up, as if there were wild beasts hidden inside, making her involuntarily want to tear open her clothes. Jioga, you really need me now, right? Yi Guan leaned in front of her and reached out to touch her tender face. Yi Guan, what are you doing? Su Jioga wanted to push Yi Guan away, but her raised hand was not only weak but also touched his collar. No. The more Su Jioga wants to control this desire, the more his body becomes disobedient. Jioga, you will always be my person sooner or later. Why don't you fulfill me today? Don't worry, I must be very gentle. Yi Guan smirked, he had been planning for so long, waiting for this moment. He fiercely tore open Su Jioga's coat. What a perfect piece of art. Yi Guan licked his lips and buried his head. No. Although Su Jioga still has reason, he is powerless to resist. Even when Yi champions touched her, she felt a hint of pleasure. Her mind is filled with deep regret. No one can save her. Bang! Suddenly, the nanny's car shook violently and almost fell off a cliff. What the hell is going on? Yi Guan took off his pants and was so angry that he cursed loudly. The driver was about to speak when a fist flashed in front of him, and an iron fist smashed the car window and hit his face. Ah! The broken glass pierced the driver's face and he fainted on the spot. Xiao Yi jumped onto the car and looked at Yi Guan playfully. You're not dead. Yi Guan widened his eyes. He had already hinted that Su San had taken action. Animal. Xiao Yi glanced at Su Jioga, whose coat was torn open, and understood everything. Fortunately, he arrived in time, otherwise this young lady would have been ruined. Yi Guan grabbed Su Jioga's neck and said, "If you take one more step forward, I'll strangle her. I can guarantee that I will strangle you before you take action." When Yi Guan was hesitating, Xiao Yi flew up and kicked him in the head. Bang! Yi Guan let out a muffled groan and fell to the ground motionless. How are you? Xiao Yi stepped forward and checked the status of Su Jioga. Xiao Yi, yes. I'm sorry. Although Su Jioga's body is soft, he understands it very well in his heart. The medicine is very strong and has already affected your heart. If you don't release it immediately, it will be life-threatening. Xiao Yi held down Su Jioga with one hand and patted the small cloth bag around her waist with the other hand. The golden light flickered inside the small cloth bag, and 9 golden needles flew out of it. Before he could stab the golden needle into Su Jioga's body, she took the initiative to pull Xiao Yi into her arms and wriggle. Xiao Yi, I think. Warm fragrance and warm jade entered her arms, leaving Xiao Yi in a daze. How can this be treated? Chapter 4. I am a man. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I don't know how long it has been, but Su Jioga opened her eyes. She is very weak, as if she has suffered a serious illness. Are you okay now? Xiao Yi leaned over and looked concerned. Su Jioga was a bit confused, and she tried hard to think about the previous events, gradually forming a thread. She sat up suddenly, her clothes slipping off, and her whole body was cold. Su Jioga lowered her head and let out a mournful scream. Ah! Her body is naked, you bastard! Su Jioga was filled with grief and anger, raising his hand and fanning towards Xiao Yi. Don't move around, you are very weak now. Xiao Yi grabbed her wrist and explained, if I say I didn't touch you, do you believe me? I've done it this way, you still. Look at what that is. Xiao Yi pointed to her body. Su Jioga covered her chest with both hands, but something pricked her arm. I admit, at the moment you pounced on me, I hesitated for a few seconds. At that time, I also thought about a more convenient treatment method. After all, I am a man. But I didn't do that, but used the golden needle technique to expel the toxins from your body and also cured your menstrual pain. Su Jioga was a bit puzzled. She had already noticed that there were indeed gold needles pricked on her body, and dirt was flowing out from around the gold needles. Although Miss Su has a stunning beauty and a charming and sexy figure, I still have the bottom line of being a good person. I, Xiao Yi, dare not say I am a gentleman, but I will not take advantage of others' danger. As for the clothes on your body, they were already torn by Yi Guan before. In order to facilitate detoxification, I didn't wear them for you. Xiao Yi waved her palm and lightly tapped Su Jioga's forehead. Her body shook and the golden needle flew out, accurately falling into her hand. In the eyes of doctors, there is no distinction between men and women. Su Jioga fell silent. Although her body was weak, she did not feel the tearing sensation behind her as legendary. I said to clear Xiaojie's milk not before, but you don't believe it. I told you that Yi Guan is not a good person, but you still don't believe it. Now, you suspect that I have ruined your innocence. Xiao Yi forced Su Jioga's eyes and said, you can doubt my Xiao Yi's abilities, but you cannot doubt my character. I'm sorry, I was wrong. I won't doubt you again in the future. Su Jioga lowered her head and her face was filled with self-blame. This little veterinarian whom she looked down upon saved her one after another. She struggled to stand up, but lacked the strength. She looked at the scattered underwear and shyly said, can you help me put it on? Her body's medicinal power was too strong, and Xiao Yi used a relatively strong needle technique to quickly detoxify, which greatly weakened her vitality and made her very weak. Xiao Yi put on the small clothes for her, but always got lost and clumsily bumped into the wrong place. Su Jioga frowned and said, did you mean it? Don't blame me, this game is not easy to play. Then how could you take it off? Men's innate abilities. Su Jioga rolled her eyes in anger. She lay down for a while, regained her strength slightly, and asked, I didn't drink what he gave me, how could? He put the sedative into his sachet and took the antidote himself in advance. Xiao Yi took out a sachet and handed it to Su Jioga. So it's like this. Su Jioga suddenly realized. I'll take you home first. It's not advisable to stay here for a long time. Xiao Yi carried Su Jioga on his back, and Yi Guan woke up. He looked up and saw Xiao Yi, threatening, if you dare to take her away, my Yi family won't let you go. I hate being threatened the most. Xiao Yi kicked up, and Yi Guan's handsome face was blurred by the kick, and he passed out again. After Xiao Yi got off the car carrying Su Jioga, she kicked the rear wheel. Bang! The nanny car overturned along the cliff. The Yi family will trouble you. Su Jioga screamed loudly and looked worried. He fell off a cliff while driving, what does it have to do with me? Xiao Yi didn't take it to heart, he carried Su Jioga on his back to the co-pilot of the off-road vehicle. Su Jioga saw Su San in the back seat and was moved, saying, Su San is very sincere. You're even dumber than I thought. Why are you scolding me? Look at it yourself. Xiao Yi untied Su San's phone and threw it to Su Jioga. Su Jioga flipped through the information and looked embarrassed. Originally, he had already been bribed by Yi Guan. His previous slander towards you was all done by him himself. Su Jioga felt ashamed, thanks to Xiao Yi not giving up on her. She asked again, did you already notice that Su San had a problem? When he was fighting with the Blood Wolf sect, experts could tell at a glance that they were using tactics. Also, the Blood Wolf sect asked me to stay by name, which must have been a secret message from Su San to them. Additionally, the appearance of Yi Guan was too coincidental. Su Jioga listened to Xiao Yi's precise analysis and smiled bitterly, you're right, I'm so stupid. Tell me your home address. It's broken. Su Jioga suddenly thought of something and slapped her thigh hard. What's wrong? My son is almost exhausted. I came to see you to treat his illness. Can you hurry up? Aren't you unmarried? Who said you can't have a son without getting married? 2 hours later, Xiao Yi drove to the front of the Su family courtyard in Lincheng. Su Jioga was awakened by a shock, and her body was weak. She had already fallen asleep unconscious. What are you doing? Stop the car. Xiao Yi was about to drive in when she was stopped by a uniformed security guard at the door. Xiao Yi was about to explain when the security guard scolded impatiently, is this his mother where you park? Get out of here. Apologize to me, otherwise don't blame me for being impolite. Xiao Yi pushed the door and got off the car. He didn't expect the security guard of the Su family to be so unreasonable, even worse than a vicious dog. Let me apologize. I'm the guard of the Su family. Who dares you? The security guard cursed profusely and raised his palm to fan Xiao Yi's face. What kind of errand was arranged by the old veterinarian? I've been encountering idiots all the way down the mountain since then. Xiao Yi was so angry that she cursed and grabbed the security guard's wrist tightly. If you don't apologize again, I'll pinch your hand. Apologize to your mother, come on, someone is causing trouble. The security guard not only did not give in, but also loudly called for help. A dozen or so black-clad guards ran out of the courtyard, all of whom seemed to have some old-fashioned skills. Seeking death. Xiao Yi exerted force in her palm, pinched his wrist, and at the same time, flew up with a foot, right in her arms. Ah! The security guard's body flew up and hit the ground heavily. Brothers, give it to me. The guards of the Su family waved their fists and rushed towards Xiao Yi like a bad wolf. Dare to cause trouble at my Su family, I see you don't want to live anymore. The leader is tall and imposing, a martial artist who breaks through the mortal realm. A bunch of barking dogs, wearing black clothes, think they're a gangster. I'll teach you a lesson today to avoid biting in the future. Xiao Yi held back her anger and happened to vent her anger on these inconspicuous guys. He took a leap, jumped into the encirclement, and punched. Chapter 5. Kneel down and speak to me. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xiao Yi happened to fall in front of a Su family guard. The other party thought the opportunity for meritorious service had come and punched Xiao Yi in the chest. The powerful energy penetrates through the void, revealing the immense power. Although his abilities may not be as good as those of the leader, he has also reached the 5th grade strength of the Kaishan realm. Bang! This punch hit the chest firmly, but Xiao Yi remained intact. Fool! Xiao Yi's hand was like a knife, swiftly cutting towards his right shoulder. Click! With a crisp sound, the person's shoulder bone shattered and the entire right arm hung down. Ah! His eyes turned black and he fell to the ground. Be careful, he is a martial artist who breaks through the mortal realm. At first glance, the leader was greatly shocked. A person who can cut off the arm of a 5th grade warrior in a single move has absolute strength to break through the mortal realm. At present, martial arts cultivation can be divided into 3 major realms, namely the Kaishan warrior, the breaking earth warrior, and the martial arts master. Kaishan is divided into 9 levels. Among ordinary people, those who can reach the 6th level or above can be called experts. A martial artist who breaks through the mortal realm is the top figure among the masters. As for the master, he can be considered a demon among mortals. Above the master, we have transcended worldly martial arts and entered the mystical system. Xiao Yi flew another person and rushed straight to the leader. Who the hell are you? Why did you come to my Su family to cause trouble? The leader saw the younger brothers falling one after another and quickly retreated. Xiao Yi's figure flickered and instantly fell in front of the leader, grabbing his throat. He only felt that Xiao Yi's iron pliers-like hand brought him a sense of death. Kneel down and speak to me. Xiao Yi's palm moved, and the leader felt a chill enveloping his entire body. His knees softened and he knelt down on the ground. I didn't even pay attention to the Su family, and I'm afraid you're just a watchdog dog. Xiao Yi lowered her head in disdain, exuding a majestic aura. What do you want to do? The leader's voice trembled as he turned his head to look into the courtyard, hoping for reinforcements to arrive soon. The Su family has been fortified layer by layer, and he believes that the guards in the inner courtyard should be able to see everything happening inside the surveillance footage. Pop! The answer to him was a resounding slap from Xiao Yi. Ah! The leader's half-face suddenly swelled up. I was just sending your young lady home, but I received insults and attacks for no reason. Now I know what I did earlier. Xiao Yi lifted him up, as if holding onto a chicken. He threw the person to the side of the car, opened the car door, and said angrily, Su Jioga, if you don't get off again. Xiao Yi stared blankly at Su Jioge lying on the passenger seat, her face flushed, her mouth full of chatter, her coat torn off, revealing her pink snowy skin. Su Jioge, what's wrong with you? Xiao Yi raised her hand to touch her hot forehead, then grabbed her pulse, and her face changed greatly. Full of nonsense, imbalanced yin and yang, deep and slow pulse, uneven speed. This is a disorder of the mind. Did she go crazy from being stimulated before? Xiao Yi is foolish. Judging from Su Jioge's pulse, this is a precursor to going crazy. You disrespected Miss Air. The leader looked at Su Jioge and thought that Xiao Yi had insulted her, so he turned around and ran away. Xiao Yi was very angry and didn't care about him at the moment. He had hoped that Su Jioge could help him resolve the misunderstanding, but she went crazy. When I was detoxifying her just now, even though her 5 senses were normal, why did she suddenly have a problem? Does the Su family have a hidden history of mental illness? Xiao Yi patted the small cloth bag around her waist, and a golden needle flew out. He quickly stabbed it into the acupoint corresponding to the 5 gods. Suddenly, the trigger in Xiao Yi's hand flashed a faint purple light. Holy Spirit, it's her. But how could she be here? Inside the trigger, there was a sigh that outsiders could not hear. The primordial spirit was sealed, but when this kid detoxified her, she accidentally touched the seal. How could her small body melt down the Holy Spirit? A breath flew out of the trigger and integrated into Su Jioge's mind, suppressing her chaotic and struggling weak spirit. All of this went unnoticed by Xiao Yi. Xiao Yi secretly practiced and controlled the golden needle. As she watched the temperature on Su Jioge's body slowly drop, she finally breathed a sigh of relief. At this moment, another group of guards rushed out of the Su family courtyard, led by a woman with a hot figure. Miss, he insulted Miss Air. The leader, who was beaten by Xiao Yi, rushed towards the woman in charge with a mournful cry. This woman has a sexy and unrestrained body curve, full and tight, with a pair of slender thighs full of wild power, paired with a strapless red dress, very gorgeous. She is Su Yueran, the cousin of Uncle Su Jioge's family, a woman who has been seduced to the bone. Shut up. Su Yueran slapped her hand. The leader dared not shout anymore and looked at Su Yueran in terror. What did you say earlier? Air. Miss Air, you've been insulted by that kid. Well said, I'll give you another slap. Pop. Su Yueran slapped him in the face again and sneered, I command you to spread this sentence throughout the Su family, otherwise I will cut off your tongue and feed the dog. Yes. The leader dared not neglect. Although he was unaware of the Miss's intentions, he still shouted and ran into the deep courtyard, saying, Miss Air has been insulted. Miss Air was. Strange, the 5 gods have stabilized, but why hasn't she woken up yet? Xiao Yi heard the commotion behind her, but his gaze was only on Su Jioge, and he covered her with his coat. Kid, what did you do to my sister? Su Yueran led the people to the door and saw Su Jioge lying there with a flushed face. Xiao Yi turned around and yelled angrily, she has been drugged, and I am. Did you forcefully fall in love with her? Ha! Are you satisfied? Su Yueran laughed heartlessly. Stupid woman, stupid. Xiao Yi angrily cursed, this woman is definitely sick. My younger sister is like this, she still has the mood to laugh. Su Yueran's eyes were filled with anger, but she smirked and said, you played with my sister and scolded me. If you kneel down now and lick my feet clean, I can keep you a whole corpse. After Su Yueran finished speaking, she pulled her bare feet out of her red leather shoes and provocatively shook her toes. Ah! Xiao Yi stared blankly at her snow-white feet and instinctively swallowed her saliva. This woman's feet are so beautiful, emitting the ultimate temptation, but he later realized that this woman was insulting him. Xiao Yi became angry with embarrassment and cursed, listen to me. It was I who saved your sister and sent her back home, but she is now sick and needs time to recover. As long as she wakes up, everything will come to light. As long as you. In this scene, you said you saved her. Are you insulting my intelligence? Su Yueran interrupted Xiao Yi's words and raised her hand, saying, I want to avenge my poor sister, kill him, chop him into meat paste and make dumplings. With Su Yueran's command, all the guards rushed toward Xiao Yi, and a few of them even pulled out their machetes. Chapter 6. I'll pack you. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I, Xiao Yi, am innocent and innocent. When did I suffer such humiliation? Today, I will destroy your Su family. The fierce anger hidden in Xiao Yi's heart erupted, and he was slandered several times in this short period of time. These powerful aristocratic children treat their lives like ants, and such tyranny has completely driven them crazy. He flew to face the enemy and punched his opponent in the chest in front of him. Bang! As the bone broke, the person's chest collapsed and blood spurted out of their mouth, causing serious injuries and falling to the ground. Another guard flew over and kicked toward Xiao Yi's front door. Seeking death. Xiao Yi grabbed his calf with her right hand and punched his knee with her left hand. Click. Another muffled sound shattered his knee bones. This person let out a scream, but Xiao Yi didn't let go and used his body as a weapon, turning around and smashing it at other guards. Bang bang bang. Ah! The sound of bone fracture mixed with screams, chilling. How handsome! Su Yueran looked at Xiao Yi's swift and ruthless movements, not only without sympathy for the Su family guards, but also with a look of obsession. This is the man, his body is amazing. Miss, this young man is not easy, we need to be careful. After hearing Su Yueran's words, a martial artist who broke through the mortal realm frowned. Shit. During the conversation, the sound of a sharp blade cutting through flesh and skin came from the field. The guard in Xiao Yi's hand was forcefully cut off by his accomplice's machete. You bunch of animals, even bite your own people. Xiao Yi raised her hand and threw it, then smashed the guard in her hand. Bang! The guard with a machete on the opposite side was knocked to the ground. Xiao Yi tiptoed and before the machete could land, it flew into his hand. You always bully the weak in your daily life. Today, I will let you also taste the feeling of being chopped. In Xiao Yi's eyes, the red light was even brighter, and he held a machete in his hand, adding wings like a tiger. He leaped forward, with a silver light flashing in his hand, and chopped towards a guard. What a fast speed! This person was startled and broke out in a cold sweat, and in a moment of panic, he used his sword to block it. Dang! The machete in his hand was instantly cut off, and Xiao Yi's speed did not decrease, cutting straight onto his left shoulder. Shit! His left arm flew out, creating a bloody rainbow. As soon as Xiao Yi's feet landed, he heard the sound of breaking the wind behind him. He didn't turn back, just threw the machete in his hand backwards. Shit! His opponent behind him had just cut off half of his machete when it hung in mid-air, and his rib had already been pierced by Xiao Yi's knife. Ah! He let out a scream and was kicked away by Xiao Yi. Haha! It's great! Xiao Yi's blood was boiling all over his body, and the blood splattered on him added to his radiance. At this moment, he is like the god of war descending. Most of the Su family guards at the entrance have collapsed, leaving only 3 skilled guards guarding Su Yueran's side. Capture the thief first, capture the king. Xiao Yi rushed toward Su Yueran at lightning speed, like a flying cheetah. Stop him quickly. The martial arts master guarding Su Yueran's side, who had broken through the mortal realm, saw Miss Xiao Yi kill and immediately came with 2 other 8th-grade guards to stop him. Xiao Yi looked at these 3 experts who were attacking in the shape of a character, and her speed did not decrease. His cultivation was in operation, and a strong energy swept through his body from the dantian, adding an extra layer of armor to his originally strong physical body. Bang! The bodies of both sides collided, and the other three were immediately knocked back a few steps before stabilizing. Xiao Yi let out a muffled groan, and although blood had spilled from the corner of her mouth, the injury was not severe. He took advantage of the situation and landed in front of Su Yueran, his fierce gaze sweeping towards her seductive face, and he reached out to pinch her throat. "Miss Su, just now you asked me to lick your feet clean." Su Yueran's breathing was rapid, and although there was a hint of panic in her expression, she exhaled like a orchid and spoke calmly, "You can hang out with me in the future, I'll take care of you, 1 million a month." "You have a fucking brain problem." Xiao Yi almost didn't get angry to death. She's also a woman, how could there be such a big difference? Although Su Jioge may be a bit arrogant, she is pure and sweet. Looking at her sister, she is simply a wealthy and promiscuous woman. "Isn't my figure better than my sister?" Su Yueran raised her towering chest and her gaze became even more seductive. Xiao Yi lowered her head and scanned, looking at the snowy peak exposed from her red skirt, feeling an indescribable disgust in her heart. Pooh! Xiao Yi's saliva coincidentally landed on the snowy peak. "If you lick my saliva clean, maybe I can consider it." "You!" Su Yueran trembled with anger and looked at Xiao Yi incredulously. "Miss Su from the prestigious Su family, she has always insulted others. Why did she turn around today? You will regret it." Su Yueran's charming gaze became cold and she did not choose to retreat. "I'll say it again, I didn't harm your sister. All of this is a misunderstanding. If you don't apologize, I'll break your neck." Xiao Yi exerted force on her palm, and Su Yueran's pretty face suddenly turned purple-red. "Let go of Mississippi." The three experts who were previously bumped away by Xiao Yi rushed over to welcome and rescue them. Xiao Yi said without looking back, "If you dare to take a step, let's collect her corpse." The three of them were taken aback and dared not move again. "Do you want to apologize?" Xiao Yi's palm continued to exert force, lifting Su Yueran's plump and delicate body into mid-air with one hand. "I, Su Yueran, will never bow down to someone as lowly as you." Pop! Xiao Yi's slap fiercely hit her smooth face. Su Yueran let out a muffled groan, and her cheeks suddenly swelled up. "If you don't bow down, then I'll make you bow down today." Xiao Yi's palm lifted again, he insisted on seeking justice today. "Stop it." Suddenly, the voice of Su Jioge came from behind. Xiao Yi turned around and saw Su Jioge getting off the car. She walked slowly, without any sound, as if floating on the ground. Xiao Yi realized that Su Jioge was different from the past at this moment. Her pure gaze became profound and indifferent, and her overall temperament had changed. "Xiao Yi, today is my fault, it's my Su family's fault. On behalf of my sister, I apologize to you." Su Jioge walked up to Xiao Yi and raised his hand to hold Su Yueran's arm. "Xiao Yi, I beg you to let go of her." Xiao Yi looked into Su Jioge's eyes without letting go of Su Yueran and asked, "Are you feeling better?" Su Jioge smiled calmly and said, "I had a strange dream before, and now it's okay." "That's good. Xiao Yi, I thank you for taking action several times to save me. But you have suffered unjustly because of me. On behalf of my sister, I kneel down to apologize to you." As Su Jioge spoke, he was about to kneel down. "Don't." Xiao Yisong opened Su Yueran and helped Su Jioge. "I can spare her, but you can't apologize to me on her behalf. You Su family, except for you, must all apologize to me." Xiao Yi's words resounded like a storm sweeping across the crowd. What a big tone. Where did the ground beetle come from? Dare to make my Su family apologize. A noblewoman walked slowly with an old man. Chapter 7. Cutting off the tongue to apologize. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xiao Yi's gaze fell on the old man and the noblewoman. The old man was elegant and had some ancient martial arts skills, but unfortunately, in his old age, he had already run out of oil and was on the verge of withering. The noblewoman has a mature feminine demeanor, with a jeweled and precious complexion, a sharp and sarcastic expression, and a fierce gaze. "Grandpa, Auntie." Su Jioge immediately welcomed him. These two people, one is Su Buiyun, the former head of the Su family, and the other is Bao Yu, the eldest daughter. Law. Bao Yu said angrily, 9 songs, they've all bullied you to the doorstep, but you're talking to outsiders. You're still not from the Su family. Auntie, listen to me explain. Bao Yu did not give her a chance to explain. The second lady of the Su family, the first lady, wants to kneel down to a ground beetle. If this is reported, what will our Su family face? Su Jioge frowned and said, Auntie, he is my savior. You have the face to say. You let the Yi family do nothing, but you can't help but find a ground beetle. Don't think I don't know what you just did. Auntie, Xiao Yi and I are innocent. If it weren't for him saving me, I would have been ruined by Yi Guan. Just like you are now, I think he has ruined you, right? I thought your daughter was stupid enough, but I didn't expect you to be even dumber than her. Xiao Yi walked slowly and stood beside Su Jioge. How dare you speak to me like that? Someone, cut off their tongue. Bao Yu glared at Xiao Yi viciously. The ground beetle dared to scold her, even though she had beaten her daughter. Foolish. Xiao Yi slapped her face when she raised her hand. Pop. This slap landed firmly on Bao Yu's face. Ah! Bao Yu's body shook and almost fell to the ground. Su Buiyun watched everything quietly without saying a word. Su Jioge exclaimed urgently, Xiao Yi, if you try again, you won't be able to explain it clearly. Does Xiao Yi deserve to explain to these fools? Xiao Yi looked disdainfully at Su Jioge and said, You have safely returned home. Since the Su family doesn't welcome me, I'm leaving. Xiao Yi, you promised me to treat my son's illness. Xiao Yi hesitated a bit. Someone, cut off his legs. Bao Yu shouted angrily, and the Su family guards immediately stepped forward. Nonsense. Su Buiyun snorted coldly, and no one dared to move anymore. Bao Yu wailed, Dad, you saw him. He not only ruined Jioge, but also hit me and Yuan. You have to make decisions for us. Shut up. Su Buiyun interrupted her and asked Su Jioge, Jioge, can you tell me what's going on? Su Jioge finally waited for the opportunity and recounted what had happened on his way back to the city. Su Buiyun looked at Bao Yu and said, Did you hear me? They are all wearing a pair of pants now, and Jioge naturally wants to speak to him. Bao Yu, however, was not convinced and pouted, Dad, this bastard trespassed on my Su family and even injured our guards. We can't just forget it. So what do you want? He insulted Yuan and me, which damaged the dignity of the Su family. We must kneel down and apologize. Also, he injured Yi Guan and offended the Yi family. What should we do in the future for our cooperation? If the Yi family seeks revenge, we will also be implicated. I suggest tying him up and sending him to the Yi family to apologize. Bao Yu waved her hand and the guards behind her surrounded Xiao Yi several layers. The strength emanating from these guards is clearly stronger than those before. Xiao Yi is a friend I invited, you have no right to do so. Su Jioge stepped forward and stood in front of Xiao Yi, looking back apologetically at him. Xiao Yi, I'm sorry. You just came down the mountain and caused so much trouble because of me. Xiao Yi was originally very angry, but upon hearing Su Jioge's words, her anger dissipated and she gently pushed her away, saying, These fools, why can't I? How dare you look down on my Su family guard team? A martial artist who broke through the mortal realm jumped out of the crowd, clenching his fists and banging at Xiao Yi's chest. He is the confidant of the big house and naturally wants to perform well in front of Bao Yu. Some people always overestimate themselves. Xiao Yi allowed his fist style to sweep onto her face, and lightning struck, pinching his wrist and giving it a hard squeeze. Click. The opponent's wrist bone was shattered, and Xiao Yi flew out with a foot that hit his knee. Ah! This person's legs softened and he knelt straight in front of Xiao Yi. This. The scene was filled with inhaling sounds. It was a flash sale. Old man, how did your Su family get into the upper echelons of society in Lin City? Or is it that all the so-called upper echelons in Lin City are people like your Su family? Xiao Yi looked up at Su Buiyun and saw that the old man's city was very deep. Su Buiyun smiled slightly and asked in response, Xiao Yi, are you the descendant of Tang Lao, the adopted son of the Xiao family in lynching back then? Yes. What do you think about today's matter? This is your territory. Of course, it's your the final say. Dad, this kid's background is unknown. He must have ulterior motives towards our Su family. We must not let him go, otherwise it will be like raising a tiger as a threat. Bao Yu was worried that the old master's heart would soften, so he kept getting angry. You seem to be very afraid of me entering the Su family. Did you do something shameful? Xiao Yi looked at Bao Yu with a cold smile, which scared her back several steps. Su Buiyun ignored Bao Yu and looked at Xiao Yi, saying, Tang Lao was kind to me in the past. Today, you saved Jioga again, but it was misunderstood by my Su family. I apologize on behalf of the Su family, as I am sorry for the inconvenience caused to you. Su Buiyun clasped his fists and bowed sincerely. Everyone was stunned, they didn't expect the old master to be so humble. Bao Yu shouted anxiously, Dad, he doesn't deserve to be like you. He caused us to offend the Yi family, I have my own decision on this matter. The Su family is not your the final say now. Su Buiyun's remaining power was still there, which frightened Bao Yu from speaking. Little friend, please come in. Old man, I accept your apology, but we can't just let this matter go. Xiao Yi pointed to the security leader who had previously yelled and insulted Su Jioga in the courtyard, and said, this person has tarnished Jioga's reputation. What do you think should be done? Su Buiyun remembered. If it weren't for this kid shouting that Su Jioga had been ruined, this matter wouldn't have caused everyone to know. With such a commotion, he believed that it would not be long before this matter spread throughout Linqing. This person, damn it. Su Hu, come here. Su Hu's face turned pale with fear, and he had to step forward and kneel in front of Su Buiyun with a thud. Master, it was the young lady who asked me to shout. Nonsense, I think you deliberately smeared my Su family. Su Buiyun interrupted Su Hu's words, causing Xiao Yi's gaze to shrink slightly. Su Hu, in consideration of your years of service to my Su family, I'll spare your life. I'll punish you by cutting off your tongue to make amends, and I'll do it myself. Su Buiyun looks elegant, but he is also ruthless enough. Master Xie. Su Hu pulled out a dagger from his waist and was about to cut his tongue when he suddenly stabbed Xiao Yi sideways. Damn it, go to hell. Chapter 8. Constant Creation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Su Hu's speed was so fast that everyone only felt a flash of darkness, so he grabbed a dagger and stabbed Xiao Yi in front of him. Xiao Yi. Su Jioga was so anxious that she shouted her throat out, but she couldn't do anything. Bang! With a muffled sound, Su Hu stopped there. Xiao Yi, with her eerie movements, grabbed Su Hu's wrist with her backhand and let his dagger pierce her. Shit! The dagger was fully inserted into Su Hu's throat, and a blood column shot out. Su Hu let out a muffled groan and died tragically on the ground. You killed Su Hu. Bao Yu couldn't believe everything in front of him. Although it was Su Hu who stabbed Xiao Yi, how did he die himself? He felt guilty towards the Su family and committed suicide. You fart. Bao Yu cursed loudly, like a shrew. Xiao Yi looked at Su Buiyun and smiled, "Old man, did I say it correctly?" Su Buiyun looked deeply at Xiao Yi and nodded, "That's right, Su who committed suicide in fear of guilt. Su Jioga, let's go treat your son's illness. You come with me." Su Jioga led Xiao Yi towards the courtyard. Xiao Yi stopped and said to Su Buiyun, "Old man, there is still a traitor Su San in the car. You go deal with it." "Thank you very much. I see that your face is not right. Your hidden illness is on the verge of breaking out. I think you will have a serious illness, so be careful." Before Su Buiyun could even speak, Bao Yu said, "How dare you curse my old man? I think you're sick. You're also sick, your brain is sick. It's not easy to treat." Xiao Yi finished speaking and left, too lazy to bother with this shrew anymore. Bao Yu said to Su Buiyun, "Dad, this kid has a divine way of life. Don't be fooled by him. Can we force ourselves against him in the current situation?" "Dad, what do you mean? Do you think these guards at home can stop him? Are you using this as a delaying tactic? If we let him go and the Yi family comes knocking, how should we deal with it?" "Dad, you still have a clear idea. Bao Yu, in the future, use your brain more when doing things. I'm getting old, and the Su family will rely on you in the future." "You're right, I was reckless before." Bao Yu smiled awkwardly, as long as the old man trusted her, everything would be easy to handle. After Su Buiyun left, Bao Yu looked at the red mark on Su Yueran's neck and asked, "Are you okay?" Su Yueran shook her head and looked down at the saliva mark on her chest, without saying anything. "Mom will definitely avenge you. Not only will I shatter his body into countless pieces, but I will also expose the scandal between him and Jioga to the public. Mom, we can't underestimate the enemy." "Humph, it's just a little kid, don't worry about it. You go back and rest, I'll go out for a while." "Where are you going?" "Yi family." Su Yueran was stunned for a moment, then raised her hand and wiped away the watermark from her chest. "Su Xiaorui hasn't eaten or drunk for several days. I've contacted many veterinarians and they all say it's dying." In the third villa, Su Jioga held her son and complained to Xiao Yi. Xiao Yi looked at the dark body of the wolf dog in her arms, except for the one with blood-red fur on all four legs, and couldn't help but laugh. Su Jioga invited him all the way to save a dog. Xiao Yi opened Su Xiaorui's eyelids and mouth, then pressed on its belly and frowned. "How's it going?" "The base of the tongue turns black and the pupils are dark. It should be poisoned by Tianmaji, a chronic poison." "What?" Su Jioga's eyes widened. "Who would poison a dog?" Xiao Yi patted the small cloth bag around her waist and said, "I will first use a golden needle to release blood and detoxify, but this poison is very domineering. If you want to completely eliminate it, you still need a water tap. This is a detoxifying and healing elixir, which can also prolong life and be shared by humans and animals." Su Jioga walked to the window and called, asking where to buy a water faucet. Xiao Yi used a golden needle to bleed Su Xiaorui, but her heart began to murmur. This beast is clearly different from an ordinary wolf dog. There is also a trace of spiritual energy in its body, perhaps due to its special bloodline. "You're right, kid. This dog has the bloodline of a king beast." Suddenly, a strange voice came to Xiao Yi's mind. "Ah!" Xiao Yi was startled, but there were no outsiders around. "It's me." Xiao Yi's fingers trembled. "Are you?" Xiao Yi looked at the trigger in her hand in shock, her heart rising to her throat. "I am a divine consciousness of the Divine Eye's ancestor. You are blessed in the future. With the presence of your ancestor, you can ensure that your medical alchemy is against heaven and your cultivation will break through without obstacles." Shentong ancestor. Xiao Yi frowned, listening to the old man's tone. It seemed like there was some suspicion of boasting. "Kid, do you dare to doubt me? Let me show you something powerful." A strange light shot out from within the trigger and instantly disappeared into Xiao Yi's eyes. Ah! Xiao Yi's eyes were piercing, as if a special crystal had merged into them, and he also had an additional practice mnemonic in his mind. This is the technique of using the divine pupils. If you can understand it clearly, you can awaken the divine pupils and use them to. Xiao Yi immediately silently recited the mnemonic and guided the spiritual energy in her body to blend into her eyes according to her method. Her vision gradually became clear, penetrating Su Xiaorui's fur and seeing her internal organs. Through perspective. Xiao Yimu was stunned. This divine pupil technique is truly incredible. What surprised him even more was that although he had awakened his pupils for the first time, he felt incredibly familiar, as if it should have belonged to him. What is perspective? It's just the most basic function of the divine eye. Thank you to my ancestors for bestowing me with blessings. Xiao Yi thought to herself that she had not wasted all these years feeding it so much blood, and finally gained some benefits. My ancestor is waiting for the inheritance of the art of defying the heavens. You must perform well, and it is not without your creativity. Xiao Yi discovered through her pupils that Su Xiaorui's poison had invaded her lungs, and her condition was extremely critical. He inserted a golden needle into the acupoint and, guided by his divine eye, expelled toxins from his internal organs along the golden needle. Ancestor, do you say it has the bloodline of a king beast? Although this beast has various bloodlines, it has a trace of royal beast bloodline. If you can activate it, maybe it can grow into a powerful battle beast. I really don't know where Su Jioga found it. Normally, there shouldn't be such a beast in the mortal world. Xiao Yi suddenly thought of something and looked up at Su Jioga. Don't worry, she can't hear our conversation. Xiao Yi breathed a sigh of relief and said, with my current cultivation level, if it weren't for the water tap, I wouldn't be able to completely eliminate its toxins unless there is an old veterinarian present. You can do it too. Me. I'll pass you another set of dredging techniques, combined with a golden needle, which can completely eliminate toxins. After Master Shintong finished speaking, Xiao Yi had another set of dredging techniques in her mind. Creation keeps changing. Xiao Yi's excited heart pounded, and she immediately began to realize. This dredging technique, like the divine pupil technique, was just his first encounter and he immediately realized it. Do I, Xiao Yi, have exceptional talent or possess an extraordinary bloodline? What are you thinking? This is because our ancestors have transformed your qualifications through the divine eye technique. Without me, you wouldn't even be a fart. Master Shintong snorted coldly and muttered to himself, you can't give too much luck at once, so he won't suspect. Xiao Yi stopped talking and immediately used dredging techniques to detoxify Su Xiaorui. After a moment, black poisonous blood shot out along the tail of the golden needle. Ah! Su Jioga screamed out loud when she saw this scene. Chapter 9. Early Engagement. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After the poisonous blood in Su Xiaorui's body was cleared, he stood up and affectionately licked Xiao Yi's fingers. It never tries to please anyone except Su Jioga. Xiao Yi is a bit tired, and with his current cultivation level, he cannot continue to use the divine eye technique and clearing stasis technique for a long time. Xiao Yi, your medical skills are really amazing. Su Jioga stared blankly at Xiao Yi, who was capable of healing beasts, humans, and had excellent martial arts skills. I really don't know what else he didn't know. Xiao Yi glanced at her without saying anything. Su Jioga saw too much from his gaze and felt even more ashamed. Xiao Yi, I'm sorry, I underestimated you before. It's the biggest mistake I've ever made in my life. I don't care about others' attitudes towards me, Xiao Yi. I want to remind you that people's hearts are treacherous, so when faced with something, one should think twice. Thank you for the reminder. Su Jioga clasped his fists and bowed, showing great courage. These big families have inherited ancient martial arts, but due to the lack of competitiveness among their descendants, they gradually became obsolete. Su Jioge has been practicing martial arts since childhood and has reached the level of 5th grade. My hometown master Su Buyan is also a martial artist who breaks through the mortal realm. Xiao Yi asked, you were in the car before and there were signs of going crazy. Do your Su family have a history of mental illness? Su Jujexin said that this guy's emotional intelligence is really poor. Just now when his attitude changed, he came up with this sentence. No. Think about it again, are there any discomforts, mental disorders, or anything like that? Su Jioge didn't want to talk to him at first, but it was evident that he was so serious. He had to say, I'm doing very well now, without any discomfort. It's just that I had a dream of ascending to immortality and becoming an empress. Xiao Yi thought she was deliberately speaking angrily, so she stopped asking. After his cultivation had slightly recovered, he held Su Xiaorui in his arms and said, little guy, I saved you. From now on, I will be your father. Xiao Yi wants to activate the bloodline of the king beast within her body, so she naturally needs to first establish relationships. Xiao Yi, although you saved Su Xiaorui, you can't take advantage of me. Su Jioge blushed with embarrassment and said unhappily. Sorry, I forgot that you are his mother. Xiao Yi chuckled, he really didn't mean to. Humph. Su Jioge snatched Su Xiaorui over and said, Su Xiaorui, listen to me, I am the biological mother who raised you. Ahem. Su Xiaorui obediently called out, then looked up at Xiao Yi and flashed his eyes. Xiao Yi understood the meaning of its gaze and smiled slightly. Tianhua Ji is not common, Su Xiaorui must have been deliberately poisoned. Unfortunately, Su Xiaorui can't speak. I heard that in the past, people with high cultivation were able to communicate with beasts, but unfortunately, I did not practice this method. After finishing speaking casually, Xiao Yi had a plan in her mind and secretly said, Ancestor, your cultivation is against heaven. You must understand animal language, right? What's the difficulty of using animal language? I'll do it now, Ancestor. Emperor Shentong was about to pass on his skills when he suddenly realized that he had been fooled by this kid. He changed his mind and said, as long as you practice hard and break through the foundation building, I will pass on the art of communicating with beasts. Xiao Yi felt like the old guy wasn't telling the truth, but it wasn't easy to force him either. This little devil has too many thoughts, you must be careful in the future to avoid being tricked. Zedong Ancestor muttered to himself, blocking the communication with Xiao Yi's divine consciousness. Su Jioge said, Xiao Yi, I have already contacted Wan Jitang. He has water lilies there. Can you accompany me to get them? Xiao Yi wanted to say that Su Xiaorui's poison was over, and then thought about the powerful medicinal power of the water faucet flower, which may stimulate the bloodline of the king beast. She nodded and said, sure. Xiao Yi, could you please? Su Jioge looked apologetic. You don't have to thank me, I'm just repaying the old man's favor. Aren't we friends? I can't afford to climb high. When Su Xiaorui is okay, I should go. Is that your attitude towards me? So what should I do? You have seen through my body, take responsibility for me. How to take responsibility? I want you to protect me. To be honest, just say you're my boyfriend. Su Jioge chuckled mischievously, feeling that she had found a good way to refuse other people's pursuit. You want to use me as a shield. You want to kill me. What are you afraid of? It's too childless. Yes, I don't have any seeds, okay. Xiao Yi was not fooled by her at all. I'll give you money, 100,000 a month, isn't that high enough? Your sister gives me 1 million a month, she has a fuller figure than you. You. Su Jioge almost got angry to death, this kid can really harm people. That's right, as long as you make me comfortable to serve you, I can still add money. Su Yueran walked with a fragrant breeze, and she changed into a more revealing suspender lace short skirt. Half a snowy peak was exposed above her, and the hem of her skirt barely covered her buttocks. It was black and white, and the waves were rough and tempting. Xiao Yi stared at her dumbfounded. Setting aside everything else, this woman's figure is really top-notch. Wang Wang. Su Xiaorui barked incessantly. Is it okay? Su Yueran looked at Su Xiaorui, who was full of vitality, in surprise. Su Jioga proudly said, it was Xiao Yi who saved it. Are you really a veterinarian? Su Yueran looked at Xiao Yi with a strange expression. Xiao Yi stared at her without saying a word. Although she didn't have a good impression of her, she didn't look at her for nothing. Su Jioga looked at his unseen appearance and stepped forward to block his view. Xiao Yi tilted her head and continued to look. Su Yueran noticed Xiao Yi's gaze and raised her breasts even higher. She smiled and said, Xiao Yi, I apologize to you for what happened before. After she finished speaking, she bowed deeply to Xiao Yi. Xiao Yi only felt two peaks pressing down, and there was a deep and snow-white ditch, almost reaching out to pick it up. Xiao Yi, you're not allowed to look at her. Su Jioga erupted, knowing that his chest was not as good as Su Yueran's. He even displayed this kind of virtue, which was too infuriating. Xiao Yi also felt that it was too much, let out a dry cough, and turned her head away. Xiao Yi, come with me and I'll ensure you eat delicious food and drink spicy food. Su Yueran's gaze seemed to devour Xiao Yi alive. He's my person. Su Jioga glared angrily at Su Yueran. Su Yueran still looked at Xiao Yi and said, Xiao Yi, please consider. Xiao Yi didn't speak, she just felt a slight itching in her nostrils. Su Yueran, he's my boyfriend. You're not allowed to dig into my corner. Su Jioga went all out to retain Xiao Yi. Have you slept? Yes. Su Jioga nodded vigorously. Hello. Xiao Yi looked at Su Jioga with dissatisfaction and said to herself, don't ruin my innocence. That's perfect. The three of us can sleep together. Xiao Yi looked at Su Yueran's fiery body, and at the thought of that scene, her nostrils spurted with blood. You're my sister, how could you say such shameless things? Su Jioga was angered by Xiao Yi's displeasure. Su Yueran said casually, good sisters, good men should know more about sharing. I'll say it again, he's my boyfriend, please go out. Su Jioga raised his hand and wanted to push someone, just as Su Buyan, the owner of his hometown, walked in. Jioga said it well, she has already been engaged to Xiao Yi. Chapter 10. Marry one and get one as a gift. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Old man, you can't talk nonsense. Why don't I know about the engagement? Xiao Yi looked at Su Buyan and felt that his breath was tinged with a hint of conspiracy. Su Jioga also asked, Grandpa, how come I don't know? Before, you were still young. To prevent you from falling in love early, I didn't say anything. Now, since you like Xiao Yi, it means it's fate. Su Yueran smiled and said, Grandpa, do I have an engagement? Not right now, but if you really want to marry Xiao Yi, it's not impossible to get one as a gift. Xiao Yi and the three of them petrified on the spot, is this human talk? Su Buyan, are you old and confused? Xiao Yi gradually realized that since he was sent down the mountain by the old veterinarian, he had fallen into a trap. White paper and black letters, do you still want to recognize them? Su Buyan took out a crumpled napkin, which had been stored for many years, but it still emitted a fragrance of alcohol. It's broken. Xiao Yi thought to herself, this wine is made by the old veterinarian himself and has a long-lasting fragrance. Su Jioga snatched the napkin and slowly unfolded it. Although the handwriting was ugly, it was indeed a marriage letter. But her name Su Jioga is clearly just filled in, and the space is still very large. Xiao Yi said, Su Buyan, what nonsense are you talking about? There's no way to fill in the blanks in a marriage letter. Su Buiyun smiled and said, at that time, Jioga had not yet been born, and the name was empty. Tang Lao asked me to fill it in casually. If you don't object, as long as it's an unmarried woman from my Su family, I can fill it in for you. Hee hee. Xiao Yi is going to collapse. What the fuck is that? I also told you that Tang Lao had traded many copies of marriage letters like this back then. Transaction. Back then, Mr. Tang needed a huge sum of money. He called us old friends together to crowdfund and exchanged your engagement for our investment. He sold you to countless houses. Ah! Xiao Yi roared up to the sky, damn the old veterinarian, he doesn't do anything. Su Jioga burst out laughing, which was actually beneficial to her. She said, Xiao Yi, do you dare not listen to Grandpa Tang? What if I object? Xiao Yi stared at Su Buiyun intently. Considering that you have saved Jioga, I can take a step back. As long as you stay in the Su family for a year, whether you marry Jioga or not is up to you. Grandpa, he stripped off my clothes. Su Jioga immediately filed a complaint. If he doesn't admit it, Grandpa can't do anything about it. Anyway, I can't beat him either. Su Buiyun directly labeled Xiao Yi as irresponsible. Xiao Yi asked, are you sure about a year? 1 year is enough for you to accomplish what you want to do. Do you know why I came? I have heard about the Xiao family's affairs back then. Xiao Yi's gaze narrowed and she said, old man, could you take a step to speak? Su Buiyun smiled slightly and led Xiao Yi into Su Jioga's study. In the living room, Su Yueran asked, sister, have you really slept? Yeah. How long? Over 2 hours. Su Jioga is talking about sleeping on the road for so long. Oh my god, he's such a beast. I never expected him to have such strong perseverance. Such a man is so rare. Su Yueran licked her lips, her eyes lit up, and the snow peak began to rise. Su Jioga gave her a blank glance and was too lazy to explain. In the study room. Xiao Yi asked, old man, what tricks are you playing with the old veterinarian? I guess you really want to avenge your foster parents. Find Xiao Bingyu, right? You. Xiao Yi widened her eyes. I have prepared a document for you. Su Buiyun reached into his arms and took out a few sheets of paper. After the two of them walked out of the study, Xiao Yi didn't say anything else, she just wanted to accompany Su Jioga to Wanjitang to buy water lilies. Su Jioga didn't ask much and drove out in her red Porsche. Su Yueran looked at the departing Porsche and asked Su Buiyun, Grandpa, didn't you tell Mom to hand over Xiao Yi to the Yi family? It depends on the Yi family, whether they have the ability to take him away. Su Buiyun put away his previous laughter with a stern expression. Grandpa, is that wedding letter real? If you want to sleep with him, you have to rely on your abilities. Su Buiyun looked at Su Yueran with a smile and asked, where's your mother? She went to the Yi family. Hee hee. Su Buiyun's smile was a bit cold. Wanjitang is the largest chain pharmacy in Lincheng, with its headquarters located on the pedestrian street in the city center. The female salesperson asked, two of you, what do you want to buy? Su Jioga said, I want to buy water lilies. Miss, you came just in time. We have just one plant left in our store, which is a bit expensive and requires 200,000 yuan. Swipe your card. Su Jioga handed over his bank card directly. 3 colored flowers. Xiao Yi's gaze was drawn to a herb inside the counter with 3 different colored flowers blooming in 3 different colors. It has different effects for each flower, and when taken at the same time, it can replenish vitality and enhance physical fitness, making it a great tonic for practitioners. If taken by a dying person, it can bring them back to life. How much does this 3-colored flower cost? After hearing Xiao Yi's words, the female salesperson glanced up and down at his shabby appearance and sneered, this medicine is very expensive and ordinary people can't use it. It has been here for 3 years. I'll ask you how much it costs. Xiao Yi didn't care about her narrow-minded attitude towards others and continued to ask. 1 million. It's so expensive. Xiao Yi shook her head. Although tricolor flowers are rare, they are not so expensive. If you can't afford it, don't ask randomly. The female salesperson looked contemptuous. Who says my man can't afford it? Su Jioga grabbed Xiao Yi's arm and said, not to mention just a tricolor flower, even if he buys your pharmacy, he can afford it. The female salesperson's face changed greatly and she quickly apologized, Miss, I'm sorry, I didn't know he was yours. Stop talking nonsense, go swipe your card quickly, we're in a hurry. The female salesperson didn't dare to say anything more and quickly went to swipe her card. She didn't dare to offend a major customer who had sold over 1 million yuan. Xiao Yi said, it's not worth the money, it's too expensive to buy. Su Jioga smiled and said, as long as you like it, no amount of money is expensive. Actually, I have money. Xiao Yi took out the gray bank card given to him by the old veterinarian. He didn't know how much money was inside, it should be quite a bit, I'll buy you medicine, treat me to dinner. Deal made. At this point, the female salesperson returned. She had just taken off the tricolor flower to wrap it up when a few people burst in from outside. The crowd was crowded with a young man and woman, who seemed to be siblings. Su Jioga's gaze fixed and he secretly said that something bad was going to happen. She secretly grabbed Xiao Yi and was about to speak when one of her subordinates had already rushed to the counter. He pointed to the tricolor flower in the female salesperson's hand and excitedly said, hurry up and wrap it up for me. My second young master urgently needs this medicine. The female salesperson was delighted and pointed at Xiao Yi, saying, I'm sorry, this 3-colored flower has been bought by this gentleman. The person looked at Xiao Yi and said angrily, this medicine is urgently needed by the Yi family. You go take a look elsewhere. Not going. Xiao Yi smiled and shook her head.